Hello and welcome to the Twitter Townhall meeting with Martin Schulz, the common candidate of the European Socialist for the election of the European Parliament. And as you all know, Martin Schulz is also the contender for the position of the President of the European Commission in this election. Welcome to you, Martin.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Martin. Grüß Gott und willkommen to our audience here in the Literaturhaus in Munich, and of course a warm welcome to our online and Twitter community in the whole of Europe. My name is Nana Brink and I'm leading you through this Twitter Town Hall meeting. What we are going to do in the next hour, allow me to give you a brief overview on how we're going to play this Town Hall meeting. Quick, straight and up to date. That's what Twitter is all about, and this motto shall guide us during the next hour. You have the unique opportunity to pose your questions to Martin Schulz right now. Just go to Twitter, Martin Schulz. The hashtag is AskMartin, and please post your question and inquiries in English, as the Twitter Town Hall meeting is conducted in English, and you can follow all the information here on the screens behind. Our Twitter Town Hall team then chooses a selection of questions, and Martin Schulz will then answer these inquiries right on the spot. And you can watch all on our live stream, SPD-DER-PISEU. And for German audience, we provide simultaneously translation, and you can find it on your second audio program on spd.de. Now, Martin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So let's get started, a little bit of warm-up. Martin, you put yourself under an extreme tough schedule. Can you remember all the miles you have flown in the last weeks?
I think all the miles not. It's difficult to count, but I think because I'm every day have my diary in the evening, I know where I was and I know still where I have to go this week. Yeah.
And that's very important. From all what I hear, you always carry a little secret buddy. A little secret buddy. It's a happy hippo. Can you show it? I know you have it with you, your happy hippo. It's a little secret. It's a hippopotamus. And that's great. Tell us about this hippopotamus.
This is 20 years ago when I was elected for the first time to the European Parliament. I have to admit I had a little bit fear to fly.
Uncomfortness. We call it uncomfortness.
And my daughter gave it, this is some of the surprises for children. And,
it's hidden in the chocolate egg.
Yeah, in the chocolate egg. And then she said to me, look, he looks like you, fat and sleeping. And you should take it with you, that I'm always with you. And so my daughter is always with me until today, and it helped. It helped a lot. Yeah.
It helped against the uncomfortness. Martin Schulz, you grew up in the Rhineland. Strasbourg and Brussels is your current home, but your political Heimat, as we say in Germany, is Europe.
Yeah.
If you got 1 minute, tell me all about your Heimat.
Yeah, my Heimat is, to answer in a double sense, it is the triangle Maastricht, Liège, Aachen, where I really live with my family. This is perhaps the most Europeanized region in Europe. It is a triangle of 3 countries, smaller than Munich. And to grow up there is to grow up in a kind of European microcosmos. And that influenced me a lot. And my Heimat, as we say in German, Europe is a continent of values, of individual rights, of the protection of the fundamental rights of citizens, guaranteed by 28 countries in the Fundamental Rights Charter of the European Union, and the cross-border cooperation of countries and nations in common institutions on the basis of mutual respect and the guarantee of our standards. This is unique in the world. Therefore, I'm proud that I'm a European.
So you carry the dream really in your heart?
Yes, absolutely. I think look to the past of our history, of our continent. We as Germans, we know it very well. And look to this short time of 75 years since the beginning of the Second World War. This is only 75 years, and compare the times of the first half of the 20th century with the second half, and you see the European dream is not a dream, it became reality.
So you put yourself on the challenge. Maybe we have the first question. It's coming from Paulus Zappala. Martin Schulz, what will be the first act you are doing as a new president?
I read in the morning. I read in the morning
Well,
that my challenger will sleep
really?
first after the election. First action to sleep. No, I will put 3 things immediately. The fight against unemployment of young people is this. Unemployment of young people, perhaps the best educated generation we ever had on the continent, and 50–60% in some of the member states of the European Union unemployed. This is destroying trust to the European project. The fight against youth unemployment is the highest priority. The fight against tax evasion. We are living in the European Union where speculators make billions of profits and don't pay taxes. And when they make billions of losses, the taxpayer has to pay for them. This is not fair and just. And the third thing is, I would ask the civil servants in the institutions, don't think if there's still a corner in Europe where we have not interfered in, make proposals here. What are we doing in Brussels? But perhaps could be done better on a local, regional or national level, because we have to regain trust of citizens and therefore to show citizens we bring the decision nearer to you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Martin. So the next question, maybe it's coming from Denmark. It's Jacob Klock. Danish members of parliament say that it is fair, for sure, that the EP will block candidates from the commission, from the president of the commission, designated by heads of state. Your comment?
I think all the heads of state and government belonging to the different political families in Europe appointed common candidates. 12 social democratic prime ministers appointed me, 11 included the German chancellor, appointed another one, my colleague Juncker, and 4 liberal prime ministers appointed Guy Verhofstadt. So 27 out of 28 heads of states and government appointed candidates in their respective party families, and they did not to tell after the election that it was a joke. So I think one of us will become the next president of the European Commission.
But it's a tricky question, isn't it? It was a tricky
question. No, this
question.
This is a question. I take it very serious. The question is picking up a lot of rumors, never coming from the heads of state and government themselves, but from their people around them who are spreading all over. Yeah, you know, if this government, the heads of governments accept at the end. One thing is clear. This is a new dimension of European democracy. We ask the voters with their vote to decide who should lead the European Commission, and I think not to respect the vote of voters after a vote, this is really a strike against democracy.
Because you are the front runner. It's the first time that the parties choose a common contender for that.
Absolutely. I think what citizens are criticizing, and I think well justified, the critical approach to the European Union is, it is intransparent. Nobody knows who at the end decides. And that the President of the European Commission should once more be the result of a backroom deal. I think this is exactly the opposite of what citizens expect, and therefore this is not an election like previous elections. For the first time that voters with their vote influence directly who leads the European Commission.
In your first answer, you put the youth unemployment point 1 of your potential agenda, and here's the questions. How will you fight youth unemployment? Do you have a blueprint?
Yeah, no, a blueprint. I have a concrete proposal. In those countries where the youth unemployment is highest, we have in the same time a very similar structure of economy. Medium and small enterprises are the backbone of the economies in that countries. For example, in Greece, more than 95% of enterprises are small and medium enterprises. And they have all in Italy, in Greece, in Spain, in Portugal, in Cyprus, even in Ireland, the same problem. This is the credit crunch. The banking crisis created a situation where banks are, for the time being, lending for 0.25%. On the money, interest rates, money from the European Central Bank, but they don't invest it in real economy. They are once more on the road to speculate with the money. So small and medium enterprises, those who create most of the new jobs and most of traineeships, have the problem of access to credit. Therefore, to overcome the credit crunch with the European Investment Bank, the lending capacity of the European Investment Bank to combine with the funds of the budget of the European Union and to create a microcredit program for exactly small and medium enterprises and those who use the money to invest and employ young people, young unemployed people, should get a privilege on the interest rates or on the duration of reimbursement. This is a concrete thing we could immediately put on the road, and the youth guarantee, the 6 billion money we put in the budget to give a guarantee that everybody leaving from school could get a traineeship, leaving from traineeship should be helped to get access to the labor market. That's the second element.
And that's a question that will match. I'd like to ask Martin from Spain, what will be different from southern EU countries in your commission? Because we need a change, he says.
The problem of southern European countries, but not only southern European countries, also some of the other countries in the European Union, is that we should combine to the budgetary discipline. The Commission is asking for them. It's well justified. We need budgetary discipline. By the way, if you allow, we just spoke about youth unemployment, budgetary discipline, and to reduce the sovereign debt of the member states, not only the Eurozone, of the member states of the European Union as a whole, is a question of solidarity between generations. I got not as legacy from my parents the sovereign debt I leave to my children and their children. Therefore, I think it is a question of solidarity. I know this is often not so popular on the left side in Europe, but I stick to it. My children and their children should not pay for me. Therefore, we have to reduce the sovereign debt, but one thing is clear: without growth and employment and the revenue side of a budget, we will never assign a public debt, a sovereign debt. Therefore, the fight against tax evasion, 1 trillion euro every year escape from the fiscality of the member states of the European Union. 1 trillion euro by tax avoiding and tax fraud. So to close tax havens and to fight against tax evasion. And secondly, to combine the budgetary discipline with strategic investments, for example, in research and development, in the digital infrastructure, which is completely underdeveloped in the European Union, but decisive for the 21st century, or our energy grids, to invest in energy grids in the European Union for a better distribution of our energy, to become more independent from energy import. These are enormous investments, and let's discuss about renewables for the southern European country. Spain, the sun is more shining than I was Saturday in Laponia, in northern Sweden. So this is also a chance for southern European countries.
So the next question is very good for that. Under your presidency, Martin Schulz, and he's referring to your presidency of the European Parliament, will the 1% continue to get richer while the 99 continue to get poorer?
My answer is quite clear: no. I will do the utmost to reduce this unbalanced development, but the question shows reality.
Yeah,
and every year we have 1 billion more and thousands of poor people more. This is not the European Union in which I want to live. Therefore, my answer is no. I will fight against that development.
So I think now it's time for taking some questions from the audience. Sorry, I'll be back right now. There's a question, okay. Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Herbert Weber, living here in Munich. Hello, Martin.
Hi.
I watched the debate. You 5 candidates was posted on Phoenix, I think, last week.
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday. There was a comment you made which I didn't quite understand about religious symbols in public places, which is quite not alarming, but raising interest. What did you mean?
As I said last Thursday, this is in the hands of the member states of the European Union. I repeat it. I saw the debate as well. It is the responsibilities of the member states of the European Union, and in some of the member states of the European Union, it is even a regional question. For example, what happens here in Bavaria is decided by the Bavarian regional authorities. And I fight since years for more subsidiarity also in that question. It's absolutely clear, and I said it. This was the first observation I made in answering to the question. We have to respect the rules of the member states, and therefore quite clear it is Bavaria deciding what happens in Bavaria or not. It is deciding France what happens in France, or Portugal what should be the rule in Portugal. One thing perhaps in addition, I spoke also about the conservative backlash. It was interpreted here, but I spoke about people like Le Pen and Wilders, who are, in my eyes, really dangerous people, putting in doubt the individual standards and rights for which we fought. So quite clear, the question of crosses on hills. I saw such an observation of a colleague here in Bavaria. I find crosses on hills are in reality a part of our cultural heritage.
So we'll follow up with Twitter. There's Mark Nightingale. How do you intend to confront the recent rise of Euroscepticism around Europe and the lack of public and democratic engagement?
Behind Euroscepticism and this doubts about the European Union.
Doubts and worse.
Yeah, and worries is a lot of social depression. And I understand a lot of people. I said in our introduction, when people look to us in Europe, to the European politicians, also on a national level, because also national politicians are European politicians. If they listen to us, we are discussing only in billions. 15 billions there, 20 billions for that bank, 30 billion for another country, billions, billions, billions. When I was elected to the European Parliament 20 years ago, a billion was an enormous amount of money. Today, a billion, it's billion, it's nothing.
Peanuts.
So, and I think for us here in the room, a million, I presume for me, I think for you as well, is an enormous money. But for 97%, 98% of our citizens, 1,000 or 2,000 euro is enormous money. And the feeling, these people there with their billions, they have nothing to do with me. They don't care about my children. That's a feeling I can share. And therefore, I want to change it in Brussels and in Strasbourg. The European Union has to contribute with all actions also to the everyday problems and worries of ordinary citizens. We have to put citizens first. My parents, the generation of my parents, they were asked from their governments after the Second World War sacrifices we cannot imagine. They worked longer, they had less salaries, they had less services. The services they got, they had to pay for. They did it without complaining. Why? Because the government said it is for your children. And visibly it was for us. And we are asking now parents all over in Europe to do sacrifices, less salaries, less pensions, less services, more fees for the services. And for what? For saving banks. And their children are unemployed. That people doubt about a fair and just Europe.
There's sort of like a missing link between what you're saying and what the members of parliament are saying and what is really...
No, we have to deliver concrete solutions. And the people have to feel they take my individual faith and the future of my children serious. Therefore, fight against unemployment is my highest priority. The moment parents see my children have a better chance, they give us a credit of trust. I'm absolutely sure.
Maybe the next one is touching this issue we're just discussing. What is the best way, that's Phil Camper, what is the best way to fight growing nationalism?
First of all, to show that nationalism, as François Mitterrand said in the European Parliament in 1995 in his last public speech on a European level, leads at the end always to one thing, to war. To bring one people against another one, to play one interest of a nation against another one. This was Europe of the 20th century, first half. The second half was exactly the attempt to find common solution in a transnational frame on the basis of mutual respect. Mutual respect is the opposite of nationalism. Nationalism means I am better than the other one. This is, by the way, the difference to patriotism. Patriotism is you can be fully identified with your own country but respecting another country. But nationalism is I am higher. It is the supremacy of my nation in relation to other ones. And therefore, the scapegoat politicians are on the road. Marine Le Pen, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, these people in the United Kingdom Independence Party, who are telling to their people they have for everything a scapegoat, but for nothing a solution. And most is the scapegoat, the other one, the other nation, the other countries, the other minority. So to fight against nationalism, I must say once more, is to defend our transnational democracy, but this is only possible if we overcome the unbalanced social development between countries and between citizens.
And the next question is coming from Martin Oetting. Can you confirm without a shred of doubt that you will do everything to make TTIP, and that's the transatlantic partnership between the EU and the US, negotiation public and transparent?
Yes. My answer is yes. Without
any shred of doubt.
Shred of doubt, I will make it the mandate public and a clear message. Cooperation on trade between democratic economic areas is in the 21st century normal. The United States and the European Union are under threat and competition of regions in the world who have other systems than our democratic systems. Therefore, from a principal point of view, to speak about more trade between us is normal. But those people who think, and I must tell them they are stupid, to think that they could use the TTIP negotiation as an instrument to undermine the values and the standards for which we fought decades and decades. They find in me a strong opponent. Therefore, my answer is quite clear. Yes.
But this question shows that there are a lot of skepticism about, this negotiation being kept behind doors.
And the question shows a thing why this skepticism is existing. Because it was defined behind closed doors, a mandate. Nobody knows what is at the end in. Partially leaked now, and part is accessible in the net. I'm absolutely in favor to publish it. And if I would become president of the European Commission, I will create an advisory board, including civil society, trade unions, employers, the religious communities, to discuss with citizens on the broadest possible level what is in the mandate and what are the expectations and the suggestions of citizens for the mandate and for the negotiation.
And who will be appointed to that board?
Yeah, this is a question we have then to decide in the Commission, but this is the Commission President who will invite people to join the advisory board.
And the next question, how do we want to change the situations of refugees drowning in the Mediterranean Sea?
First of all, we have to help those countries who are under enormous pressure. Italy not alone. It's not only Lampedusa, it's also Spain, it is Greece, it is Malta. Malta is in a very difficult situation. And we have to help citizens, those and human beings, those who are on these boats as victims of criminal gangs. They should be protected and helped. But what we need in the European Union is a three-step approach. We need immediately help for those people who are in danger and in risk. Secondly, we need a better temporary protection. A lot of those people who are coming to the European Union are not coming as immigrants. They are refugees, for example, from civil war regions, from Syria for the time being. And if you remember, in the 80s, we had this situation with Lebanon. We had refugees from Lebanon who stayed here, and when the civil war was finished, they went back. That's what we have to repeat with our Syrian friends. And I'm absolutely sure I know a lot of Syrian refugees. The moment they can get back to their country, they will go back, or those who are refugees from ecological disaster regions. After a certain time, they want to get back, and then we need a legal system of immigration in the European Union. All the important areas of immigration in the world, the United States, for example, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, they have all legal immigration systems. You can apply to get access. Once more, one thing to the left wing in Europe. That means if you have a legal system, that means not everybody can come. That means you can apply to a European embassy, and we have a system of quotas of the member states of the European Union, and then you get not a guarantee, but you get a chance. This is in all immigration areas of the world the case, and that's what we need in the European Union as well.
And the next...
If you allow,
please.
I add one thing. The Pope told me when I had the privilege to meet him in Rome that he is the son of a legal Italian immigrant in Argentina. So the world knows a normal European immation. How the Europeans could believe that there is no immigration to us, but we must put it in an order. And I'm waiting for the excuse of some here in Bavaria who called me the new chief manager of criminal gangs in the Mediterranean because I said this.
The next question is from Lara Sanchez. Very polite, dear Martin Schulz. How will you prevent corruption in politics and corruptions of politicians?
Dear Lara, I can't change human character.
Nature.
Major failure, but transparency is the answer. We will always have people who are tempted to be corrupted or try to corrupt politicians or other people. This is existing. It's a part of our human existence, of our real daily experience, that we are weak. Often people are weak. Therefore, an optimum and transparency is what we have to do. By the way, also a common penal law in the European Union, that corruption of politicians and civil servants is a crime. That should be defined and a binding rule for all member states. And on which is concerning European institutions, an optimum on transparency, especially in the lobby registers.
Mm-hmm. And the other question is from Francesco. What do you think about the recent EU ruling on Google? I think it may be dangerous because it may encourage censorship. Maybe first we have to explain what the ruling on Google was.
Yeah, we have a huge debate about. There is a competition procedure on the road. The Commissioner announced now, Joaquin Almunia, that he will not take the decision before the European election. I think Google is a United States company, and they know, as all American companies, the best way to improve economy and to create growth is competition. And therefore, it is absolutely clear that we have to verify if Google has a ruling status on the markets, and if we have to open spaces for competition. That pluralism in the net is a high standard we have to defend. This is absolutely clear, and has nothing to do with this procedure against Google playing the role of Google in the market. This is one role. The censorship is absolutely impossible, and once more, pluralism and freedom, the other way around, we have to, by more competition, to assure pluralism and freedom in the net. And if you have a monopoly, then pluralism is more in risk than in the moment of real competition.
So you see no danger of censorship on the horizon?
There is always danger of censorship if there are monopoles and if there is too much power in one hand. And that's exactly what we have to discuss, and that's what also the Commission discusses. And then I welcome, first of all, that the Commission will not decide before the European election, but after the European election. I think the Commission should take into account that such a far-reaching decision could not be taken by an outgoing Commission.
So the next question I will take from the audience. There. Let me come to you. Just a moment. Hello, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Thorsten Frank from Augsburg. Just a question about TTIP. How can we manage in Europe that the social rights, the economic rights and the justice from Europe will not be in danger about TTIP?
By two steps. I think the message from us, the European side, in the negotiations to the United States should be on ecological rights, consumer protection, on the basis of our individual rights in the net. That means data protection. It's not enough to say data protection. It is about our individual, our privacy, our self-determination. Our standards are not negotiable. There is a certain view on the other side, the Europeans, if we make enough pressure, they will lower their standards. The answer is no. To get in such a position, by the way, we need, first of all, a clear, defined, common, binding data protection right in the European Union. Therefore, I was always in favor to separate it, not to include data protection now in the ongoing negotiations. First of all, we need clear standards on our sides. And as President of the European Commission, you can be sure I will not only defend consumer protection or data protection, I will also fight for the respect of our legal system. The specific rules for complaints of enterprises on what we call investment protection was a tradition that democracies like the Federal Republic of Germany, in those countries where you have a difficult legal system, I'm very prudent not to blame countries, a difficult legal system, and where investment protection cannot be guaranteed to be under the rule of free and not selective justice. This was reasonable in the past, but the United States of America is a democracy with high juridical standards. Why we need such an agreement with the United States? Therefore, whatever will happen should happen to normal, in front of normal courts with normal traditional judges.
Are you surprised that TTIP, this transatlantic trade and investment partnership, is such a big issue in these elections?
No, I'm not surprised. I saw it coming. I asked a year ago as President of the European Parliament to coordinate the activities of the Parliament under my own responsibility. Because we had 14 committees in the European Parliament dealing, and to look on the 14 committees, I saw a risk already coming, because nobody knew what was in the mandate. The Foreign Affairs Committee focused all exclusively on the political frame. The Agriculture Committee all exclusively on the agriculture question. The Development Committee all exclusively on the development question. And there was a lot of speculation, because nobody knew about what they are in reality negotiating. And the moment you have such a situation that nobody knows about what the negotiations are really about, then you open the door for speculation and uncertainty. And that people now really are uncomfortable with what is going on there. That's what I understand. And therefore we have to clarify quite clear, in my commission, there will be a hard and tough defense of our standards.
So hopefully you are comfortable. And that's a very good question, maybe in the middle of our show here. Martin, what is your best memory in this campaign so far?
The best memory in the campaign. Difficult. In that campaign, it's not yet finished. The campaign,
no?
Best memory was... a meeting with young unemployed people with whom I discussed, and they had a very difficult situation for themselves and for their parents, and they were all pro-European. They said, no, we are not blaming the European Union. It is a wrong economic development, and we can only turn it in another direction by changing Europe, but not by destroying Europe. That was young people suffering really, but pro-European. This is...
touches your heart.
Yeah, touched my heart.
The next from, so we proceed with Twitter, next from Florian Hohenauer. What measures do you propose in case, in case future member states move towards autocracy?
We have clear rules in the European Union. We have the Fundamental Rights Charter, we have the Treaty of the European Union. And an infringement, a real infringement of the Treaty and the Fundamental Rights Charter has to find an answer of the European Commission. By the way, that's what the Commission, with support of the Parliament, did. But I must add, you must have concrete and sustainable proofs for a real infringement. Then you can open a procedure. If you have not sufficiently stuff for sanctions and measures, and there is only a small doubt, you open the space for those people who have a profit by blaming the European Union to be hostile to the own nation. This is what happened in some of the member states. And therefore, I'm in favor of tough answers, but only if there is sufficiently stuff for such measures and answers.
And that will match us, the next question here on the screen. How can EU project democratic manners and develop democracy in the world? Is this election an example for the rest of the world?
No, the European Union is not a role model for the rest of the world, because transnational democracy, as we know it, is only existing here. This is the fascinating thing. 28 sovereign countries, 507 million citizens, 28 sovereign states building common institutions, adopting the European Parliament, binding law for 507 million citizens in 28 countries. This is inexisting. But that regional integration could be a model for other parts of the world, taking into account their specific circumstances and traditions. Look to what is happening in the so-called ASEAN countries, Southeast Asia, under the leadership of Indonesia. They are just building a common market. They are even discussing about a common currency, but logically under their specific circumstances. So that election is a very European election. But for Europe, it is a major change. As I said at the beginning, for the first time, voters decide about the direction of Europe directly.
I see you're really a deep believer. So maybe with the next question. So where's gone? Only 30% women in the EU Parliament up to now. How will you achieve gender mainstreaming in the future?
Yeah, here I have to admit, as chairman of the socialist group, we had the highest rate of women. I think 42% of my group are women.
So
I hope the figure is right, but I think 42%. And I think only the Greens have a higher percentage of women. In my commission, that will be a gender-balanced commission. That's quite clear. It's not feasible that the majority of people are underrepresented and women are the majority. And there is one thing which is a shame in Europe, and I find it as a man, as an insult to me. I have a son and a girl, and if they apply for the same job, my son will get 20% more salary than my girl. This is a shame. And then I as a father, I would never accept this. Therefore...
And this is the next question from Horatio. What is your plan to achieve an equal pay between genders?
This is a major item of my program. And to introduce into the European Union two elements to put the member states in front of their responsibility. A minimum salary, not the same minimum salary, but a minimum salary in relation to the economic capacity of every country, and equal pay for equal job for men and women equally all over in Europe. That principle is a question of dignity.
And the next from Walter Stein. Here, as we proceed, please make voting in the EU elections for EU citizens who live in another EU country easier.
Yeah, it's right. And I saw during the election campaign a lot of such problems, and I have to take it very serious. This is because the European election happened in the frame of national electoral laws, and it is very difficult to from country to country, very, very different. In some countries you must register before to get the voting cards. Other countries it's different, but I take it very serious because it is difficult.
And the next one, can we expect a common civil law for Europeans preventing us to lose fundamental rights?
We have the Fundamental Rights Charter, and one of the biggest successes with the Lisbon Treaty, when it was put in force, was that the Fundamental Rights Charter was incorporated in the treaty. It is now the Fundamental Rights Charter binding European law, and therefore you can complain in the European Court in case of violation of the fundamental rights guaranteed in the Charter.
And the next is from Eliza. Which are the lessons that Europe can learn from the past 5 years, and how do you see it in the next 5 years? Wow.
Yeah, the lessons we have to learn. The lesson we have to learn is unilateral cuts in budgets bring not immediately investors' trust back. That was the message we got. You must only cut at hush, hush, hush. The investors get back and invest, and voila, we have growth. And what are we seeing is we cut, but we have no growth. And the unemployment rate is increasing. Not to underestimate 27 million unemployed people, 6 million, as I mentioned, unemployed young men and women. This is terrible. So this reluctance of one political school, there was a competition of political tendencies. Those who said budgetary discipline, in some countries it's called austerity, brings investors' trust back of the market's trust back. And the other school I belong to was, you will never, as I mentioned, get growth only by unilateral cuts. We need also strategic investments, and we need an improvement of the revenue side. We have every year billionaires more, and every year 1,000 unemployed people more. So to combine these two things, strategic investment, the fight against tax evasion and tax fraud on one hand, and budgetary discipline on the other hand. That will be the next 5 years.
And more Europe or less?
Another Europe. It is. We have the Lisbon Treaty is the legal basis. We will not get another treaty in the next 5 years, I presume. Therefore, not more or less Europe, a better Europe, another Europe.
What can the European Commission do to harmonize standards and ensure accessible, equitable education systems in Europe? It's all about the youth, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a very important question. If we are able to harmonize standards, I doubt, because the education system is in the hands of the member states, and it is perhaps the solution, instead to harmonize, first of all, to agree that we use best practices. The so-called dual system we have in Germany is now very popular in some of the other countries, and therefore to harmonize is only possible in small steps. First of all, I would say the first step we have to do is to accept that in our education system, more or less every country can learn a little bit from another country. Simple example, we in Germany, we are not used to live with the school whole day, Ganztagsschule, as we say in German. This is another country since the 19th century.
Completely different system.
So on the other side we have, on which is concerned vocal education, a dual system. So the exchange of best practices should be the next step the Commission should undertake.
So do you support the realization of European Federation?
What's that?
That's what I'm asking for.
What's European Federation?
Obama presidency.
I think...
European Federation. I think it's a typical American question.
Yeah. It's Obama presidency.
It's Obama,
yes, the question comes from Obama presidency. So the European Union is a union of sovereign countries. Yes. My experience, when I was elected 20 years ago, when I was a young man, my dream was the United States of Europe. And
the United States of...
I'm quite honest. I thought this is a kind of United States of America on the European territory. And now, after 20 years in the European Parliament, I know you will not transform a German into a Californian or a French into a Texanian. To transform some European in Californians only for Austrians possible. So, with a limited success. So I think this is... the European Union needs a political union. We need a better cooperation on the basis and in the frame of existing rules. I take this opportunity to say one point. In all the debates we had during the last month, and also the debate last Thursday, in Florence, in Brussels, in wherever, we are discussing about institutional questions to deepen the cooperation between Parliament and Council and the Commission and the role of the Commission President, the President of the Council, and will the heads of state and government accept the vote of the...
It's very confusing.
Citizens are not interested in it.
No.
Citizens are interested in the solutions of the problems we have, and therefore I was a little bit disappointed that we not discussed enough about economic development, about more investment, about the question of internet, about digital infrastructure, about renewable energy, and about the fight against unemployment especially. This is what I'm discussing now. And let's be honest, the Lisbon Treaty, to achieve what we have in the Lisbon Treaty was very tough. We had to fight for it. And I have no... perhaps in the next period, Parliament, Commission and the Member States will agree about a broader debate. But for the time being, we need concrete solutions for citizens.
So we are approaching the conclusion of the Twitter Townhall meeting. Maybe we got another 3 minutes. One question you want to take? So we'll proceed. That's an interesting. The international role of Europe is rather irrelevant. How will you promote a stronger European democracy?
I disagree. The role of the European Union is not irrelevant. We are weakening ourselves always by division between us. The moment Europe is united, Europe is strong. And therefore, we have to make an appeal to the governments of the member states that they should, we have not to agree about everything, but the core items of our common interest we should agree on. The European Union has NATO members. The European Union has non-NATO members, have neutral countries. The European Union has countries which belonged until 1990 to the Warsaw Bloc. Other countries who had a fascist dictatorship until 1974. Our country was divided in two parts until 90. We have two member states of the European Union which are veto powers of the Security Council of the United Nations, France and the United Kingdom. So we have a heterogeneous political landscape, and it's quite logical that you can't agree about everything. But the core elements, our interest in the Middle East, our interest in relation to Russian Federation, our transatlantic relation, these are the core elements. For example, the Mediterranean question. The Union for the Mediterraneans could be an economic chance for the northern part of Africa and the southern part of the European Union. Here we have to come to a coherent approach, and what Frank Steinmeier is doing for the time being is leading exactly in that direction, to bring the Europeans on a common diplomatic road.
And that's a perfect, maybe last question. What can a social democratic president, Martin Schulz, of EU Commission mean for the democratic improvement of Europe?
First of all, that he is the result, not of a backroom deal, but of a vote of citizens. And secondly, that he is fighting for more social justice, more equality, and especially equality between men and women.
So at the end of the Eurovision debate, we just mentioned it, amongst all 5 candidates for the position of the President of the EU Commission last week, you took only 10 seconds to answer the last question. Your closing remarks were, you simply said the next president is standing here and you just talking to him. What makes you so sure?
The election campaign of Social Democrats all over in Europe is our movement unifying in a way for the first time since 30 years. I'm in this movement since 4 decades. For the first time since 30 years, really, I feel a move. Our movement is unifying behind a common candidate and behind common goals, especially to make Europe more democratic, accountable, fairer, and socially more just. And I'm feeling a lot of support, and I'm very optimistic that we, on the European level, could become the strongest group in the European Parliament.
So, Martin, we're just coming to an end. How did you experience the past hour? It's interesting. You experienced the past hour.
Here?
Yeah.
Interesting. But these are the questions I'm confronted with also on the street, in the meetings, in the events. These are things...
So you're not surprised by the inquiries?
These are the items of the public debate. The question about peace is on the agenda since the Ukraine crisis arose. Social justice, chances for the next generation, education, the fight against tax fraud and tax evasion, especially the gender question, because it is a shame that we are discussing on one hand about women's representation in boards of big enterprises, and at the same time women are with 20% less paid in their jobs. This is not acceptable. Yeah, it was very representative for the public debate all over in Europe.
Martin, we're at the end of the Twitter Town Hall meeting. What a fast past hour it was. Thank you very much, Martin Schulz, for putting up you to the challenge and for your time, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
For the coming weeks.
Thank
you and great appreciation to the Twitter community for your quick, direct and on-the-spot questions. And finally, a big Dankeschön to the audience here in the Literaturhaus in Munich, providing such a lively atmosphere. Thank you very much. The team of this Twitter Town Hall meeting says goodbye. Tschüss und Servus.
Thank you very much.